Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious with the voice of NASA, Mr. Hugh Harris. Welcome to our set again, sir.
Glad to be here.
Well, we're glad you're here, and Hugh every month wants to spend some time with you Stay Curious watchers out there on our video podcast and to talk about the shuttles of the month. And today we have, of course, the shuttles of May, 10 shuttles this month. You did a little bit of homework, so how you been?
Oh, well, been fine, and I really enjoyed what we've been doing up at the museum.
Well, thank you. Yes, we enjoy having national treasures like yourself. We've got another one working our Streamlabs board, Marty Winkle, who worked on the Apollo program with Grumman and the lunar module here at Cape Kennedy Space Center, and then he worked on the Launch Process Service engines, the SSMEs, for a good 30 years there. So, Marty, thank you for all you do to volunteer to help us here. And we're going to kick off today's show. We did want to mention, if you don't know Mr. Hugh Harris, he talked to millions of people every launch of a shuttle, and as the public affairs officer voice there. You were the assistant director and then the director. Over 50 years of service to our country, Mr. Harris has. Tell them how long you're going to be badged out there at KSC.
I'm going for another 50 years.
Okay, another 50 years. Okay. Well, we'll go along with that, and we'll hope Stay Curious will have you that long. But you're looking at 60 years of having a permanent badge at a NASA facility, right?
That's right.
That's amazing, folks. When's that happen?
Happens next year. I guess it's about 9 months now.
All right. Well, we look forward to celebrating that with you, Mr. Hugh Harris. And what a delightful gentleman he is, very involved with helping some of our outreach. There you are at the Shuttle Fest. I'm backing up here. We're not queued up exactly. There's Hugh. Well, let me just show that. This is how we met Mr. Hugh Harris. October 8th, 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. You were really brave at that point in time with our Stay Curious masks on there, and we had a plastic barrier between us there, and that you can look up on our YouTube channel. That one probably is on YouTube, and our Facebook channel will have that on there. But that was quite a conversation, and it's been a privilege to get to know you and how you're helping our museum. There's Hugh with the great Mr. George Page, who transitioned from the Saturn V launch programs here at Kennedy Space Center into launching shuttles. The first, I think he launched. Well, let me consult my scroll here, Hugh. Page launched the first 3, and then who took over after him would have been Al O'Hara. So you remember those golden years, I'm sure.
Oh, they were great.
Did you really always have the first 5 or 10 shuttles or something? I think you'd have your heart in your throat, or however they say it. You're beating so bad, and just
not exactly.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that sort of thing, you need to be calm, because if you're all excited, you can't listen properly to everything happening on the operational channels. But and I wasn't the only voice of the shuttle launch control. I believe that it was important to have a number of people do that, and so as soon as I could, which took about 10 launches, I finally was able to persuade my boss and headquarters that there should be more than one person who was doing that. And so that's what we did.
Well, NASA's known for backup systems and redundancy,
That's
and certainly
right.
if you got sick or something that detained you, of course, that's cool. Here we are with Hugh Harris learning things about operating the shuttle there, and that was STS-1, I believe we were talking about back then. But we wanted to give you a big thank you. No, they're not all giving you accolades there, Hugh, though it looks like you're sitting down there to the throngs. They're actually photographing these people.
That's right.
We guaranteed 2 astronauts at our Shuttle Fest, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the birth of the space shuttle. 4 showed up, as Mr. Story Musgrave, to the right of you, the left in this picture, crashed our party with Nicole Stott there. And of course, Nicole is between Mike McCulley on the left and Mr. Winston Scott on the right. And that is Bob Seek on the right there, who launched 57 shuttles. And anyone that knows Bob Seek, he may even be watching. Congratulations, sir. Bob Seek got married to his longtime girlfriend over the weekend, I understand.
Yes, and that's really great. I think is, very happy to have found her, and
Is her name Linda?
yes,
Yeah, okay.
and they're a great couple.
Yeah, she's an artist, and I've met her, and Bob is just a fabulous person, a guy that, like Story Musgrave there on the left. Once you meet Bob, you'll never, he makes a good impression on you there.
Well, and Story is looking great.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he looks better now than he did 10 years ago.
Okay, he was 86, is 86. Story and Nicole Stott were there to go to Yuri's night. That was the same night of our event. But look at all the people at our Shuttle Fest there. We had a wonderful time. Our YouTube channel is filled with the talks on there. There's Tom Usiak just to the left of you. Thank you, Tom, for the excellent photos. You can go to Tom's Facebook, Tom Usiak, and see his wonderful pictures. We published a bunch of them there. But there's a great photo he took of you, and Hugh is our master of ceremonies. Did you have fun doing that?
Oh, absolutely, and I really enjoyed talking about the problems that I won't mention which one of the astronauts caused us, and the fact that the other astronaut didn't cause us any at all.
Yeah, there you go. He was talking about Winston was a pretty didn't cause many troubles, and Mr. McCulley there may had been put in timeout a couple of times.
Well, no, it wasn't.
Not really.
It wasn't
No. Mike
his
McCulley,
fault.
an awesome guy. He had a beautiful pilot on the STS-34, and then he segued into management with the United Space Alliance, a well-beloved leader. But we had a great time, and yes, there will be a Shuttle Fest 2 on April 15th at a site to be determined, because we certainly busted that Hyatt Place at the seams, and we thank them for sponsoring our Stay Curious programs here too. So any final thing to say about that program, our Shuttle Fest, Hugh?
Well, I think things like that are important because it provides a sort of a much broader view of what people did and how they interacted together. And it's easy to say, well, it's all about launching rockets and here are the spacecraft, but the whole program is about people. And people are really the reason that we have the space program, is to improve the life of everybody on Earth and to gain new knowledge of what this whole universe is about.
And the shuttle has laid the groundwork for what's going on in the International Space Station and beyond. And
Right.
well put. Well, we got a couple astronaut birthdays we didn't want to let sneak by. Yesterday, May 2nd, this man, Dominic Gorey, was 65 years old. So he's paying attention to those senior ads that we see all the time down here on TVU. And we've got Dottie Metcalf Lindenberger. It was 47 years old, and I checked that 3 times because she was a space shuttle mission specialist on 131 in 2010, and still young and out there doing things. But I wanted to mention Dominic, born in Lake Charles, Louisiana. He was a veteran of 4 shuttle flights, twice a pilot, twice a commander. Grew up in, like I said, Lake Charles, Louisiana. He grew up in Miami. He grew up in Miami, the way they say it here, right, Hugh? Lake Charles, Louisiana is where he's born, and then Dottie Metcalf Lindenberger was born in Colorado Springs and grew up in Fort Collins, and she was a mission specialist on 131. So happy birthday to them. You know, we love celebrating the astronaut birthdays uh, because they're in our communities and they're doing great
That's
things,
right.
like you well know. By the way, this young lady was the longtime lead singer with the all-astronaut rock band Max Q. Did you ever hear her play?
And that's, no, I didn't hear her, but that is a long-lived band.
Yeah.
Because it goes way back into the 60s. I don't know whether it got into the 50s, but as long as we've had astronauts, practically, we've had bands.
Cool.
And that's not unusual because people in the sciences and math are more likely to be musicians than I think any other profession.
Agreed. A lot of people, carrying a guitar, flutes have been taken to space, drums, sort of thing. So yeah, it must be blowing off some creativity there. That's I was going, what's going on? That's her hand hitting me there. Well, we wanted the juxtaposition of time is always interesting to me at looking at things. And here we have Mr. Gunter Vent, the pad leader, shaking hands with Wally Schirra on STS1, and they both passed away on May 3rd. Gunter passed away on May 3rd, 2010 at age 86, and Wally passed away May 3rd in 2007 at age 84. Both these gentlemen were born in 1923, and I know that you know them. Mr. Hugh Harris, share a little about these two greats.
Well, each one was a unique person, to say the least. And Gunter Vent was known for the fact that things needed to be done exactly his way. And as long as he was in charge, if they were done his way, you did the right thing. but they had an interesting relationship between the two of them. As you know, Wally Schirra, one of the original astronauts who flew on Mercury, and he was the first one to fly 3 times. He flew on Mercury, Gemini, and then on Apollo. And when the contracts, Gunter Vent was a contractor through most of his career, and I think he actually may have been on the NASA payroll during the end of it. But when the contracts changed, as the programs changed, he no longer was the pad leader. And I think all of the astronauts relied on him and knew about his integrity and felt very comfortable when he did the checking of all of the switches and the strapping people in and getting ready to go, that if he said it's ready to go, that it really was ready to go. And as a result of that, when we got to the Apollo program, and he no longer was the pad leader because there was a different contractor, the Wally Schirra went to the contractors, and went to NASA and the contractors and said, I want Gunter Vent to be in charge of the last checks on what's happening in the spacecraft. And he persuaded, I think it was North American Aviation at that time, to hire Gunter. And so Gunter again was the person that was doing those final checks of everything in the cabin. And since his flight was actually after the great disaster that had occurred, I think that certainly Wally and other astronauts were feeling like, there's really somebody out there looking out for us to the nth degree.
The catalyst was the Apollo 1 fire, because who worked for McDonald all those years, was not part of the contracting team there. And yeah, and Wally was one that really lobbied for that, wasn't it?
Well, and Gunter, people said, well, you really should have been there because it wouldn't have happened. He said, no, I think it was good I wasn't there, because if something went wrong, it would have been absolutely devastating to me.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting way to look at it, Hugh. Absolutely.
And no, he was a very gracious person, but he was really tough as far as.
Well, he was a good friend of our museum, too. He did many things during the Apollo 13 when they were in town doing stuff. I've seen pictures of him. And, of course, Gunter Vent passed the torch on to our good friend Travis Thompson, Triple T, who became the lead of the White Room. So only a handful of people can say that they were the lead astronaut crew member on there. So we don't like talking too much about the passing away of people, but an opportunity to talk about these two greats with another great, Mr. Hugh Harris. I couldn't pass that up on there. And but Gunter lived around here, which would tell people, and was a very familiar person to the space community here in the Florida coast. Time setter, or time with a bunch of numbers, wants to know if we're live. Heck yes, we're live. Can't you hear all the mistakes I'm making? But we're here with Mr. Hugh Harris, who once a month comes and joins Stay Curious to talk about the shuttles of the month. And Hugh, there they are. We have 10 beautiful missions of May from some interplanetary missions. We've got STS30. Let's look at them real quick there in our timeline. And then you'll comment about them. I just want to say quickly, we had STS30 in 89 launched Magellan. Then the maiden flight of 49 we're going to talk about, of maiden flight of Endeavour with a very special spacewalk. By the way, Endeavour, STS49, I wrote 48 there. That's wrong. I'll correct that. It is STS49. Endeavour, the first shuttle to use a parachute on the landing on there. You remember any PR about that?
Well, not really. It was, the shuttle, when it landed out in the desert, out at Edwards, it could go forever practically after it came in. So if it came in, really hot, or faster than it should have, there was no problem with it going, further down the runway than they planned. So when you got the chute on it, though, it helped on controlling the speed and slowing it down faster than it normally would have done. So it became safer, really, for the crew. And it also led to it being more able to land at an overseas landing strip that might not be the same length as ones that we had, especially for the shuttle.
Well, a little parachute pops out of the tail. We're going to talk about that when we talk about STS-49. And we'll talk about that tomorrow somewhat, as we're going to bring you more shuttle things on Stay Curious on Wednesday. Thursday, we have Mikey Haddad is going to be with us and talk about payloads, particularly the Space Lab 3 on there. Another monthly guest that wants to share the shuttle knowledge. We got the final... we've got the final Hubble mission we're going to talk about here, final upgrade. We got the 6th docking with the Mir this month, and a lot of home improvement upgrades to the International Space Station happened this month. So, Hugh, let's talk a few things that you wanted to talk about. First is STS-30. launched on this date, April 3rd, or May 3rd, in 1989, with a payload going to the planet Venus. And I find this an unusual crew shot, Hugh. The way they've got the props laid out there. Instead of on a table, they got a little contour thing going there.
Well, it's a V for Venus, I assume.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, all right. I didn't get that. They made a V for Venus. How about that? All right.
And that shows a lot about why the shuttle was created. And we talked about this at the Shuttle Fest a little bit too, about our expectations. And one of the things was that the shuttle would really replace almost all of the uncrewed
Single stick rockets.
right, and which I called suicide rockets because they were launched once and then they hit the ocean and were gone. But in any case, so putting spacecraft on them it began to be everything is going to be launched that's possible on the space shuttle, and an interplanetary spacecraft was one that fit the mold that could be done with. So Magellan was interesting from the standpoint that it could have been launched on as a single stick, as you say.
Out here at Cape Canaveral at the time, we launched it.
But we really cut back tremendously on that kind of capability, and for a period thought everything's going to go on the shuttle. And of course,
they're very arrogant about it in the beginning. It was the advertisement was going to be 2 to 3 shuttles a month. A manifest of up to 40 was predicted in the early 80s.
Well,
a year.
And actually they talked about 50 a year.
50 a year.
And but that would have included launching from the West Coast.
Yeah, Vandenberg.
Also, and of course that went away after the Challenger accident. But in any case, it worked perfectly. The STS30
it
did its job.
The vehicle actually shown there in the picture had its own solid rocket motor on it to send it to Venus. It had some gravity assists, and it shows us penetrated that 30-mile thick atmosphere of Venus to show us a hellish world, 900 degrees on the surface. The blue relates to low areas, green kind of sea level, so to speak, though there's no seas there, and the brown is the high regions of Venus, revealed by the Magellan spacecraft to mankind for the first time.
And I don't want to scare you, but that's a cautionary tale about what could happen with global warming.
Absolutely.
So
our atmosphere is barely 3 to 5 miles thick, and here's a 30-mile thick carbon dioxide, sulfur, nasty, hellish world with a runaway greenhouse effect. Yep. Could have been the Earth. Something went wrong on Venus.
And we don't want it to go wrong.
That's why we investigate stuff
Earth.
like that. Well, next up we have the Hubble telescope, the classic picture of it being deployed 32 years ago, 1930. But let's see, on May 11th is the launch of the last service mission to the Hubble. Mr. Harris, tell us a little about that.
Well, and that shows the tremendous versatility of the shuttle program, because the Hubble, I think now is about 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of lost
Correct.
track.
That's correct.
And it's been serviced now many times, and it wouldn't have lasted much past the first time it was serviced if we were not able to go up there and to change out parts and to correct. Well, it wouldn't have actually gone into operation in the first place, because on the first surface mission, we had to change the optics because there had been a problem with the telescope itself. But particularly when we got to the last one, it wasn't easy making all the changes that were necessary there. And that ended up, I think, being the longest spacewalk or number of spacewalks. And of course, it was the largest number of crew people outside at the same time, which was 3, in order to accomplish that.
That's on the next mission, not on the Hubble. Yeah,
sorry.
you're getting ahead of us there on the STS 49 is
49,
the
that's
yeah.
right, yeah.
I jumped up to the Hubble launched the Hubble one there, but yes, long EVAs. 12 years ago is the last time human beings touched this. Okay, in 13 years ago, in 2009, 13 years ago, and it's still running great. Doesn't have thrusters on it. It has gyroscopes is how it turns around, and those gyroscopes are about to fail from being wore out. Plenty of energy with the solar panels there. Hugh, let's one of the monumental events that the Hubble did record was in 1994, just 4 years after it was deployed, was a comet impacting Jupiter, and there you see the scars of Shoemaker-Levy 9, a comet that broke up into about 20 pieces and pummeled the northern hemisphere of Jupiter. And that's the black scars there you see there. So quite a lot of science yet to come, and because the Hubble's up there with the Webb telescope, we're even going to get a double dose of science there, and the Webb is just doing fabulous, we understand.
Well, and the other thing that Hubble did, I think that's important, is it really gave us a much greater appreciation of the age of the universe, which was, I think, more than 32 billion years.
Around 14, yeah.
And
yes, yeah. Yeah, you got 32 billion, more like about 14. But who knows? I'll take a 32 billion. Yeah, so many things, and that's what the Webb telescope is even going to take us further back. But the Big Bang is somewhere around 15 billion years ago, maybe. But anyway, Hugh, let's go to STS 49 here. Well, let me go back there. 49 was the maiden flight of Endeavour, the spaceship that was bought by the U.S. Congress at a little over $2 billion to build to replace the Challenger. OV-105 is its tail number. It had on it Kathy Thornton, a good friend of our museum. Bruce Melnick, who is the astronaut coordinator at Kennedy Space Center, was on this mission. And Bruce was looking out the window when, what's going on here, Hugh?
Sorry, I was looking at some notes too, and didn't know you were going to ask that question.
Well,
this was a case where the spacecraft was launched, and then after it was launched from the shuttle, it was discovered that the engine that would kick it into the proper trajectory didn't work right. So it had to be fixed. And the 3 people actually had to catch that by hand. The commander was able to bring the shuttle within about 10 feet of it, but then you had to get hold of it. And at that time, the spacecraft were not built with the capability of easily catching them and bringing them back down into the payload bay to work on them. So, and this is where we had the the largest crew at one time out there, of course.
Never had
And-
3 astronauts even on the even on the International Space Station out at one time. And name them. Yeah, you can see the one in the back there. Who were these astronauts, Hugh?
That was uh, Pierre Thuot, Hebe, and Akins, and Dan Brandenstein, who you all know pretty well, was the commander who was maneuvering the shuttle to get them in the right position. And
Bruce Melnick was looking out the window, and Chilton was
Yeah.
the pilot. Yep, Thoth, Hebe, and Akers were outside.
and I think Bruce Melnick would have liked to have been outside too.
Yeah, yeah. When I've heard him tell the story, but he remembers how amazing that was. They caught it with their hands. After the arm brought it down as close as it could, I think.
Well, it was the
No, that didn't have any attachments for the arm. No, it didn't.
That was the
That's why they
problem.
had to catch it. And a risky maneuver with the gloves and everything. It was such an unknown. And folks, this is 1992. So we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of this. And we'll talk about that tomorrow on Stay Curious also, as we talk more about the shuttles of the month. Now, what we've got behind us here, our green screen, is our Dexter. And this is can't you see? He looks like a little robot, stick figure man here behind me. And he's got his baggage there in his hand. Called Dexter, Dextre, was taken to space on STS-132, which was launched on May 14th, 2010 by Atlantis. And I just thought that made a cool picture as a backdrop. Dexter runs up and down a series of rails and is sort of like replaces, he does things that we don't need to have to do spacewalks on. So, well, next for the month of May is we visited the space shuttle for the 6th time. And that to me is just such a crazy picture.
The International Space Station.
That's the Mir space station.
Oh, Mir, right.
Yeah, that's the 6th docking with the Mir, 1997. You were involved in all those and the publicity. One thing I find interesting is Kennedy Space Center had to acclimate their shuttle and people to Moscow time.
Right. And also because of the orbit, it was a little different trajectory that had to be flown in order to accomplish the Mir missions. And of course, besides that, the astronauts learned Russian.
Yeah.
And but I think, the space program is one place where cooperation between the two countries has really worked better than almost any other area. And that's good because that contributes to stability in the world.
I challenge anyone to find an industry or something as diversified as our International Space Station, the cooperation forged with the Russians here. It's some stressful times with the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, but they depend on each other's lives in space as human beings, not as countrymen. And we love talking about Nicole Stott and her Stottisms, that the only border that matters should be that thin blue line there, Marty, behind us. That's the only border that really matters. As my thumbs up in outer space there, I'm a Dexter human handprint there.
Well, I think it's amazing that your arm could be that long.
Really, yeah, indeed. I'm Fantastic Four's Elastic Man there.
Well, that's what Marty does.
That's what Marty does. Yeah, we're a little tight on that. We're gonna get some tricky techie advice on there. Hugh, well, what else have you got to share with us for the shuttles of May?
Well, every single shuttle was interesting, And on the Mir mission in particular, because there was say 1, 2, 3, 5 missions, I think, to Mir, were particularly tricky, and also I think showed the value of some things that were developed later on. First, there was I think it was 7,500 pounds of water that was taken up to the Mir.
Wow, 3 tons.
By the shuttle. And when you think about the cost per pound of launching something in space, you think that is a lot of money, or a lot of money to launch water. Now, life on board spacecraft depends on water too. So it was before the innovation that was done later on Shuttle, which was able to reclaim, repurify, and reuse the water, which tremendously decreased the need for taking more water up there as much, and also increased the amount of experiments and scientific instruments that you were able to take up, and what you could do with using that additional space for scientific instruments. So it shows sort of the learning curve that's going on for how humans can live in space and later on other planets.
We need the water, and because we learned how to make it out of our own eliminations and sweat and stuff like that, yeah, it's saved a lot. $10,000 a pound, something like that. Marty, we've had a great time here with Mr. Hugh Harris. Anybody have any comments that you want to share with us? He's got a list there for me there. Once again, Hugh, can't thank you enough for your involvement with our Shuttle Fest. Hugh came up with a nice anecdote about most all of our speakers. We had, we'll say hello to Ophelia Sauterel's watching in Normandy, France. Corey Blackburn, thank you for watching.
Hi.
You know Corey?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying hi to all of them.
Yeah, Dave Stange is in Michigan with Larry Pushkar. They're friends up in Michigan. Gene Wright, hello to Gene. Thank you for staying curious.
Well, Gene, we know very well, because Gene knows that shuttles are sewn together rather than just have a bunch of nuts and bolts that you tighten.
There's no rivets on the fuselage of a shuttle. Just some nice cozy reentry blankets there. And Jean was involved in that, and we thank her for participating in our Shuttle Fest. Of course, Tom and Mark Usiak are there. Tom, you're in correspondence with about the Chroniclers.
Well,
We'll do another program on that. Ishmael Yamez Al Yamaha. Ishmael Jamez Al Ramahai. Okay, I'll stick to that. Christopher Mick is a educator in Hudson, Wisconsin. Keith Sewell is out there at the Kennedy Space Center as an educator, and he's also a professor at the Florida College here in town. And Tom Celentano, thank you, Tom, for being a faithful Stay Curious watcher out there. He's a space worker segwaying around the Space Coast here. So,
T-shirts.
Pardon me?
T-shirts.
Yeah, we're trying to. Larry Pushkar's asking about T-shirts. We're trying to get that together because we want to make sure when we sell them, we can ship them to you at a reasonable price. So, I'll work on that, and maybe we can announce that tomorrow. What, Marty? Oh, is that the right thing to say, or? Huh?
Let's move on.
Okay. But I don't know what to do about the T-shirts. I can't do everything, and I haven't weighed an envelope with a T-shirt in it to see what we got to charge. But we got a few from our Shuttle Fest that we can get rid of.
How many
And-
did they want?
But
How many does he want?
we'll find out later there.
Okay.
We'll get rid of our inventory to Larry Pushker up in the Wolverine State, and he can disseminate them up there because they'll go to good homes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Hugh, thank you so much for spending your time there. This is really a wonderful man. You love our museum. Hi to Karen Conklin, our executive director. She's done a good job putting our team together here that's brought people like you in. here,
Yes, she
Hugh.
is.
So we're very grateful for everybody supporting our wonderful nonprofit that for more than 20 years has been preserving the birth of the American space age right here in this delivery room, Brevard County, Florida. So thank you on behalf of Hugh Harris, Marty Winkle. I'm Mark Marquette, and we'll see you again tomorrow to bridge the space between us.